This is the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Big Fish Cares Podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
So what happens when you mix an entrepreneur with a beer lover? Well, you get a podcast called The Entre Brewer. Got the host of the show, Adam McChesney, also founder and general partner of the St. Height Digital St. Louis franchise for digital marketing. That's the boring part of your job, I know.
That's the
exciting part's the podcast, right?
It is. Yeah, that is accurate.
So what have you been up to, man? So let's talk about the podcast thing a little bit, because that's kind of like, I just did your show not that long ago. I know it's going to be out by the time the viewers listen to this one. Because you're right around the same episode count, I think, as I am, right in the 60s or 50s or something like that. So what was kind of the thinking behind that? What made you want to start that?
So I got back into entrepreneurship in July 2020 full time, and at that point, everybody had been talking about you really needed a podcast to help out your business, help out your personal brand, all those different things. And at the time, I was drinking a lot. So I was like, what better could be to have a podcast called the Entre Brewer Podcast, where we have a happy hour style podcast. I do it in studio and I just drink, or I do it remotely at the time, and just drink beers with other entrepreneurs and talk about their entrepreneurial journey. Well, I didn't do it back in July or August of 2020. I waited about a year and a half because I had the analysis by paralysis, and finally got kicked in the teeth by my buddies. Like, dude, you got to start this. I'm opening up a studio here in St. Louis. We'll give you access to the studio, and you just promote our stuff. And started thinking about the Entre Brewer podcast, and probably not happy hour style is the way that I wanted to be known as, because I had grown up a little bit in that time. I'm actually now a little over 6 months sober, so I'm glad that...
Isn't that interesting? That's ironic.
I'm glad that I didn't go that route, but the idea is that I've talked with so many entrepreneurs, I'm connected with some amazing people, and everybody's story is just a little bit different. Even if you have the same type of upbringing or whatever the situation might be, there's something that made you into the entrepreneur that you are today. And so our tagline is, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed. And it's been really fascinating. It's been an amazing journey. I've interviewed some incredible people like yourself, and it helps me become a better communicator, helps me get better at asking questions, and just doing what I love to do, which is talking about business and learning more about people.
So what's the mix that made you who you are today? What's your mix?
So I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, but I had no idea what running a business or entrepreneurship was actually like. My dad still is a lawyer, but he was partners at 3 different firms throughout my time of growing up. And we went up and down as his business did. I just never knew that was really the reason behind it when I was younger, because I didn't understand it. My grandparents still run and operate a very famous bakery here in St. Louis that a lot of people that are on my mom's side of the family still actively work in the business. And so I was always around hardworking people. You have to work for everything that you get type of thing. You have to earn it. But I just never knew the aspect of entrepreneurship. So they were like, my dad's like, don't be a lawyer. Go to college. Get a good degree and then go work for somebody else. Like, this stuff isn't fun. My grandparents were like, go to college, get a job, all those things. So I did that. But I realized I still had that inkling to be an entrepreneur from the time that I was young all the way up until the time I actually made it happen. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, because I knew I didn't want to run a bakery, and I knew I didn't want to go to law school and become a lawyer.
But they didn't tell you why, though. They just said, don't do it, right? They didn't really get into all the details, because they probably thought, oh, you're a kid, you're not going to really understand. You're just, But what do you think they really meant? Like knowing what you know now about business, knowing what you know about your grandparents and your dad and stuff like that, what do you think they actually meant when they said, don't go do what I did?
I think my dad meant, don't be a lawyer and do it. I think that probably explains his route of doing it, and I don't know if he would do it again if he had the opportunity to do it, but I believe he's very entrepreneurial minded, so he probably would have been an entrepreneur in some sort of way, but I think it was tainted by being a lawyer and doing it. My grandparents, that's all they ever knew. And so I think to a degree they were like, we don't know anything different. You have more opportunities with where you're at today than we had. Like they basically had to start that from scratch when they were really, really young. So I think they were just thinking that there was more out there for me specifically, and that's probably why they said that.
Yeah, because I'm assuming with them, they got into the bakery business because they probably had to, and they just perfected it, because they had to, right? But like if they had a clean slate and a fresh checkbook and a fresh start at the American dream, right? They might have picked another profession, right? That maybe not is involved in so many laborious hours, getting up at 3:00 in the morning, going home at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah, I'm sure the bakery business never stops.
My grandpa's 85, and he still wakes up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, gotta get them bagels out, baby.
Oh yeah, he's there.
Gotta get the donuts and bagels don't make themselves, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I always thought the Dunkin' Donuts just always had elves or something like that, but they don't. And then your dad, do you think it was from the lawyer side, always seeing the bad side of everything, always seeing like the liability side and like all the litigious stuff out there? That it's like, man, because that's sometimes all I see as a business owner is all the bad things that are about to happen to me, and like I used to see all the good things, but then after a while, it's like, oh, we can't do that because this might happen. It's like almost like I'm not as optimistic as I once was.
I think his was really around like the lifestyle that the business created for him. So looking back and having conversations with him now, I realized that he created a life around his business and not creating a life that he built for himself that his business was a part of. And so that led to my parents getting divorced. That led to a lot of different financial issues and troubles that, again, I never understood when I was younger because they weren't going to tell me that stuff. Now that I'm older, now that I'm an entrepreneur, now that I can resonate more with my dad, I think the law firm space is just very, very it's cutthroat, obviously. So he did personal injury for most of his time. And so it's like when an accident would happen or anything like that, like you got to always have to be at the pulse of what's going on in order to get that big opportunity. And he had some big opportunities. We won some big cases that kept the company and then kept him afloat for a while, as well as our family. But there's that roller coaster of that up and down stuff, and you're so consumed sometimes in your business. And I think, obviously, I can't understand what that's like, as I'm not a lawyer, but I think that had more to do with it than just the bad part about running a business and litigation and things like that.
Well, especially on that side, the personal injury side, I mean, you're waiting for somebody to get hurt, which is like a weird thing to like have to wait on, right? It's going to happen, right? It's like, it's all your roofing buddies, right? They're waiting on a hailstorm, right? Yeah. And like, that's just no way to like master your life because like, oh, as soon as a hailstorm comes, oh, sorry kids, I can't go on vacation. Dad's got to go to Arkansas. That's vacation's going to be Arkansas, right? Like, or Texas. Hey, we're all going to Dallas for vacation this year.
Yeah.
But no, that's so interesting, man. So what's your journey been like over the last, 10, 15 years? I know you worked in corporate America a little bit before you took the plunge. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I got into medical device sales almost right out of college. I worked at a very small company here in St. Louis and then ended up going to a company called ResMed. So they're the number one manufacturer for CPAP equipment, masks, ventilators, all that good stuff. And so I ended up managing about a $25 million a year territory for about 3 years here in Missouri and worked my way up that ladder pretty quickly and was literally everything I could ever imagine. Was an amazing company with literally the leader in the innovation space within that industry. But I got promoted 9 months after starting there, and I was the youngest key account manager there by about 10 years. And so I thought this was going to take me 5 years to do what I did in 9 months, and then I kept thinking about the next promotion and the next thing because that's how my mind is wired. And it was a little bit more money, but a lot more responsibility, a lot more travel. I mean, I was gone 75% of the time as it was, and I just didn't want to trade my time for money. And so back in 2018, I started looking for ways to make money online. I came across an ad that taught me how to build out digital real estate. So it was essentially I was the landlord. I would build websites, rank them to the first page of Google, and then I would sell phone calls and either like a flat fee per month, a commission deal, or per lead to contractors. So I built up about 200 websites, and then in the pandemic realized, okay, medical device sales is coming to a halt. Now I have time to build out more websites, do all those different things. So I basically had 2 years worth of case studies for me to jump in and go do it full time. So I did that in July 2020 and then started really promoting what I was doing. Whereas before it would be kind of behind the scenes and people were like, hey, I love this concept, but can you do it for my company and my brand instead of you being the landlord? And I was following the money. So I said, yeah, sure. And then I kind of turned into a traditional agency and dwindled down the amount of websites that I had that I owned. I sold a bunch of them off. I turned 2 of them into companies. So I own an auto glass company here in St. Louis, and I also own a landscape design company here as well. And I don't know anything about either of those industries, but I know how to rank websites to the first page of Google, and we've built out companies from there. So it's been a roller coaster of a ride, and now I'm at Height Digital. I'm an owner partner there, and doing some amazing things over there. Have a team now finally, so it's not just myself.
Yeah, that's the best part. You know, that's step one though, is when you have a business, it's like, yeah, all right, we got to maintain ourselves.
Yeah,
you can't do that. We're definitely not going to be able to maintain others.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool that you're a marketing guy that actually owns 2 other companies. You don't know anything about the actual trade. That part's got me pretty excited. I feel like that's me. You know, although I do know a lot more about roofing only because I've been around roofing, but I'm definitely not born a roofer, I can tell you that. My uncle was a roofer, so I got to learn a lot about roofing, but yeah, it's not the most fun part of the job, I can tell you that. So what do you, are you married, kids? What's your personal life look like? How long have you been married?
Yes, I've been married to my wife, Delaney, 3.5 years. We have a dog, Georgie, that's about 2 years old, and no kids right now.
So what was that like, that transition with your wife going from like, you know, because she was with you in the beginning, right? Like when you were still like, you know, Mr. Medical Sales guy, nice, cushy job, probably easy money, probably happy-go-lucky. What was that transition like? It's like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to quit that $200K a year job and I'm going to go try to wing it over here and like my own thing.
Yeah, so she's actually seen the whole roller coaster. So we met right after I graduated college, and I took about 6 months before I actually went and got a job. So I was literally living in my mom's basement, and I was just like, I don't want to grow up. I'm going to try to go work odd and end jobs and just basically live another year out. And so she met me then, saw me get into medical device sales, and then saw that trajectory, and then saw me go to the bottom again. So she's like, Adam, you do this to yourself. I'm like, yeah, no, that's kind of what entrepreneurs typically do from time to time is they go chase stuff and see what happens. But we bought our dream home with my W-2 from the medical device company in May of 2020. And then 6 weeks later, I quit my job. So I literally had my back against the wall. I had about 6 months worth of savings built up after just paying a bunch of money for a down payment on our dream home, and was basically like, this is sink or swim. I was confident in myself. She trusted me. We had to switch benefits over to her because she's still working.
She was the breadwinner. She was the breadwinner for the time being.
She was the breadwinner, and I ended up not paying myself a dime for almost 9 months. I was just reinvesting everything back in the business, trying to grow and scale my team. And I invested a lot in mentorship, in masterminds, ended up hiring my first business coach, all within my first year in business, because I realized that I don't know a lot of stuff, and if I want to be successful, I have to go find and get access to information.
Well, you said a couple of things there that I think are good. First of all, that the wife has saw you go up and down, right? So it was probably a little easier, you know, on the second time around for her to trust you.
Yeah.
What was it? Well, the other thing that you did that was smart, which I don't know if you did this on purpose or not, is we got the dream house before you started the entrepreneur journey, because they really probably want to see both those W-2s coming in, you know? Yeah, so that was probably, I don't know if you did that on purpose, but that was well played, very well timed, and as soon as you close on the deal, it's see a job. Yep. Yeah, as long as the payments get made, the bank don't care anymore, so that was smart, and I remember doing that too. About a year after I was able to get the financing on the house, I remember buying the dream house. And I was like, whew, got that snuck in. Because you never know, entrepreneurial life, you never know what your years are going to look like, that's for sure. What's been the biggest challenge for you, I guess, you know, over the last, you know, let's just say since you started this entrepreneurial journey? You ended up like your grandparents and your dad, a little different conventional path, I'm sure, than they took. But what's been the biggest challenge for you so far?
I think is getting out of my own way and understanding that my ego is the greatest thing, as well as potentially one of the biggest crutches and hurdles to my success. And what I mean by that is one of the reasons why I want to start my own company is I was experiencing so many what I felt like were issues in the sales process in the medical device company. And I was really good at selling, but I'm like, I really want to have more control over the whole process and the customer experience. And when crap doesn't happen on time, or we're told that something's going to happen and it doesn't for a customer, I personally took that burden on myself. And so when I went out and started my own company, I'm selling everything, but I'm also doing all the work. So I have a ton of control. I'm basically, keeping my arms, over everything. But I wasn't able to scale. I wasn't able to do any of the stuff that I had set out to do in my business because I'm so afraid to give up control, and I'm so afraid to trust the process and build scalable systems because I wanted to be everything. And I just created another job for myself. I actually didn't have a business up until about a year and a half ago. And so I think for me, that was the biggest lesson that I've learned, that companies and businesses, the biggest assets are the teams, the processes, and the systems, and they very rarely have to do with the CEO or the owner. We're just the person that kind of brings everything together with the team, but us as an individual, like, that's not sellable. And I always thought that it was, and I had to learn that the hard way, almost when it was too late, but I figured it out.
Well, what do you mean by it was almost too late? Like, tell me about what happened to where you thought it was almost going to be too late.
Well, so I had 30 clients, and I was doing essentially all of the work. And I was reaching a breaking point before I made the transition to pivot over to Height. And I was just ready to say, screw this. Like, I'm not making as much money as I had been. I'm working from the time I would go up to the time I went to bed. I was drinking a lot. I wasn't working out. It's like I could easily go back to medical device sales and make more money with less effort. Like, why am I doing this? The reason why I got into entrepreneurship and why I started the business was because I wanted freedom. Freedom to work when I want to, where I want to, how I want to, and with who I want to. I didn't have any of that. I guess I had freedom to work when, but it was essentially almost the entire time. So I was getting ready to throw in the towel because I'm like, this isn't what I set out to do, and this isn't freedom.
Did you have a new appreciation for what being an entrepreneur was like? Or did you think it was going to be easier than what it was, or did you?
Yeah, I had definitely a new outlook and appreciation would probably be the best way to explain it. I didn't think it was going to be easy. I knew it was going to be difficult. I think I didn't understand the trueness of the highs being as high as they are and the lows being as low as they are. I thought that, hey, you're going to have wins, you're going to have losses, and then you're going to have everything in the middle. But I've had some incredibly high highs, and I've had some incredibly low lows. And it's not just about understanding those. It's about how you operate and how you overcome both the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, and how you rebound from both of those things and make that the new high and the new low, but trying to balance those things out is something I wasn't anticipating.
Well, you're a sales guy. At the end of the day, I mean, you've been in sales. I was a sales guy before I became an owner, and we owned our first job, right? It's basically the only thing that we owned. And then going from salesman to CEO, that's a whole different, it's like a whole different sport. It's a whole different sport. I can't explain it. I never thought it was. I didn't know what it was either.
Yep.
Like I just thought, oh, I can crush it. I can overcome objections. I can recover from rejection. I can get back up and do it again. You know, in sales, it was almost like easy, right? Like every time, you know, I get 2 no's, I'll get a yes. You know, 2 no's, I'll get a yes. You know, I'll close at 33%, and I'll try to keep going a little bit better. But at the end of the day, yeah, for every 2 no's, I get a yes. Yeah, I'll be average, right? And so, as being a business owner, it's the same type of like punches in the face, the same type of high fives, different. They're more what I call dimensional. In sales, it's pretty much just, you know, the customer or like product issues. There's really, you know, but I feel like ownership is like 4 or 5 dimensional, because I just feel like it affects so much. Is there any stories that you'd be willing to share of something that like really happened that really just punched you in the gut? Like something that you're like, man, like this story was crazy. I had to overcome this. And maybe something that you're able to share with some of the people listening at home, because not everybody listening to this podcast should be an entrepreneur. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that to you guys in the back that you can't hear real well. I know you guys are probably listening to the show because I've inspired you to, you know, flap your own wings and go be your own boss. And guys like me and Adam may make it look easy from if you just click on Facebook for a minute or two, but he's going to tell you a story of why it's not all it's cut out to be.
So there's not like any one specific story, but it was kind of like the generalization of my first 9 months is I had started investing in masterminds and learning from people, and everybody's like, hey, you need to build processes and systems from day one. You need to have core values. You need to have all of those foundational things in your business from day one, because your business isn't going to be able to scale. Well, I'm the sales guy that came in and said, you don't need all those things. I can outsell anything, and sales will cure any problem within the business. Well, literally for 9 straight months, every single time I would sell somebody a website or search engine optimization or Google Ads, I was literally reinventing the wheel every single time. So I didn't have an onboarding form. It was just a typical email with a random link to a Google Drive where they could submit stuff. And I was literally crushing myself, because when I started to hire people and when I made that transition over to Hyatt where we were getting everything over, we were getting logins, like I literally had to go email to email for every single client that I had to get their login information and get it over to our team, to get the website login information. Like I had nothing systematized and processed. So like the results, the end product, everything like was fine. But it's the work that went into just getting it to that point that was like the reason behind why I was working 16, 17, 18-hour days and not sleeping and driving myself insane. I'm like, what was I thinking? And everybody told me, do core values. It took me a year and a half to implement core values in our company because I thought they weren't necessary. We didn't start building processes until a year and a half in our company. We started to like literally do all the things that if I would have just done them day one, I don't even know where I would be because we've had so much success even having that speed bump in the way. But I think just people overcomplicate business, and especially if you are a salesperson, you think that just because you can sell, it can cure literally every single other problem in your business. If you don't have core values, if you don't have processes and systems in place, like you just don't have a business. And it doesn't matter how much you sell. The more you sell, which is where I kind of got to that breaking point, the worse the problem was. If you're not selling a whole lot and you don't have processes and systems, like, okay, it's not a big deal. But when you're bringing on a lot of clients and you're growing and you're scaling, the more you sell, the more it hurts.
So, I mean, you seem like a smart guy. You know, you come from a good pedigree of, you know, business people. I mean, you even went to college for all crying out loud, you know, got a degree, right? Like, so why didn't you just do it? Like, why didn't you like put all that stuff in place? Like,
I would say like delusion. I was naive in thinking that I didn't have to. I never really wanted like a big team of people. That was never my thing. So I thought it wasn't important. And then I realized it doesn't matter if it's just yourself. If you don't have those things in place, like you're literally going to be living a nightmare. And I'm addicted to the sale. I'm addicted to growth, which has been a great thing, and it's also been a bad thing. Like, I would sell one person, get the necessary stuff ready to go, and then I'd be off to the next thing. And again, it wasn't like I was just like getting them through the pipeline and not doing the work. It was just like I would get all the work and then I would fulfill. And then I'd go back and get all the work and then I'd fulfill. Like, it was just this up and down cycle that reflected in our monthly reports. But that's how my mind was. And it's like, dude, you need to have everything structured. So I had convinced myself that I found this miraculous way of doing business, and it was a nightmare.
Well, I mean, he's telling a story that all of us actually go through. I remember reading the book Traction like 5 or 6 years ago and being like, well, this book doesn't apply to me. I couldn't even get past chapter 3. I was like, there's too many words. And then I remember in 2020 when I read Rocket Fuel, I'm like, nope, this is definitely the book. See, I had to go through a lot more pain, right? Because I read it too early. And I have a similar story to you. I'm like, yeah, this is way too many things to remember, way too many things to do. And I had a smaller team then, and I'm like, oh, no, I got this. And pain got a little bit more. And then once the pain finally soaked in, I was like living on every word of that book. And I was like, grasping for more of it. I'm grasping. I'm like, all right, I'll do anything. Let's install it. So it's a similar story. We're both stubborn, it sounds like, Adam.
Yes, that is accurate.
So do you find yourself getting bored? Because this is where I find startup entrepreneurs, they always want to chase the next thing. I mean, that doesn't go away. I don't care what the book tells you. Focus on one thing, do one thing really well. But for guys like us, that can sometimes be challenging. So how do you find new ways to keep yourself motivated, but also not drive the team crazy or start a bunch of stuff that you can't finish?
Yeah, so I think my personal brand has been kind of like my next thing that I've been working on now for about a year and a half.
All right.
Separating that from the business is obviously the biggest challenge for entrepreneurs as well, especially in the online space with digital marketing. And so that's what I've been working on doing. But just things like the podcast, the YouTube channel, I'm speaking at close to 15 events this year in person and online. And just seeing where that takes me and the opportunities that I've gotten. They've had a couple potential clients literally come to us and say, Adam, we want you to be an equity partner in our company because we're interested in blowing up the marketing space within our business. But we want you, right? Because obviously when they hire us on retainer right now, like, they're not getting me. And so a lot of different opportunities and things like that are kind of presenting itself, which is awesome. So I like to keep my craziness in my projects separate from the business, so that way I'm not upsetting or pissing off the team, because I've been there where I'm like, shiny object, how can we implement this? I'm trying to segment the two things right now and be a little bit more structured in doing so.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds like a similar path. I started the BennyFisher.com thing, started a content company, doing some speaking like you are. It definitely thought about too, I think, man, I'd be better as a CMO on most people's team for a small equity stake.
Yeah.
I'd rather own 15 or 20% of 10 companies than try to have one company on my own by myself. You know what I mean? Where I can do my superpower stuff, which I think is branding and customer service and developing the right people and getting the right people around you. And I think I'd be much better off on 10 people's teams than just going all in by myself all the time. So, and my team doesn't even. I don't think they even want me 100% of the time. They probably won't even listen to this, so I could probably get away with saying it because they're probably all busy working while I'm just trying to keep myself busy but not starting too many things. So I feel like podcasting is a safe way to network, hang out with some people. Not getting into too much trouble. How's podcasting been for you as far as meeting new people?
It's been amazing, and even people like yourself that we've been connected, online. You being on my podcast, me being on yours, I just learn more things about every person that I've already been connected with for the most part. And then I'm now also interviewing guests and being on podcasts where I've never met the person, but maybe a 10 to 15 minute sync up before. And so just having the ability to meet new people, continuously learn, which is all a trait that I think the most successful entrepreneurs have. It's just been a very amazing way, and I learn something every single time. And I also obviously consuming podcasting as well to try to figure out how to ask better questions, how to navigate certain things as both a guest on the episode as well as the host.
Yeah, I do a bad job with that. I need to do some more, some more market research or market analysis on how I can be a better podcaster. But I always figure
great job, and you were
I just figure like if I gotta, I don't know, I just say whatever's on my mind. So that's like I've never been able to do that fully ever in my life until like now. Until like I have my own keys and my own show, and I can ask you whatever I want. Like I had one time. This is a guy that did this. It was kind of like a trade thing again. I didn't do this on purpose, but he wanted me to be on his show, and I usually say yes for the most part. But then he wanted to be on mine, and I was like, oh crap, I don't even know you. I said, so we'll see how this goes. I said, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, yeah. So we started, I drilled deep, on some personal issues and stuff like that. And he starts talking to me, and he was telling me about his divorce. And I thought, hey, he was used to talking about it. Next thing you know, after the show, he's like, I can't believe you got me to talk about my divorce. He's like, we got to edit that out. I said, whoa. I said, we don't edit anything out here on the Big Fish Cares podcast. I said, if you want us to not put the episode out, that's fine. I said, but I'm not gonna censor stuff. That's the whole reason I have a podcast is to not have to have a censor, But that's also another lesson in you should really know your ideal, person and make sure that they really want to be a guest, because maybe tell them some horror stories of how I told you about some mommy and daddy issues when you were a kid or something like that, and then your mom's going to be listening. Hey, listen, this happens here on the Big Fish Cares podcast all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go deep, right, and try to figure out where we all came from, right? Have you been on this? How old are you? You seem like you're a little younger than me.
31.
Yeah, you're way younger than me. You're 10 years younger than me. Wow, I wish I could be you. Man, 31 years. Woo! Man, I didn't even start sniffing. Man, that was good. 31. You got your whole life ahead of you.
That's what I'm planning for.
Dude, I want to be you when I grow up. Holy cow. 31 years old, man. You're getting at this right time too in business to where enough to be dangerous to be able to compete with the 40-year-olds, right? Because I feel like my generation is in the best spot, right? We've had enough old school experience, new school experience. We've got a lot of ups and downs. By the time you're 40, I feel like you've usually figured out somewhat your place in life. I know when I was 30, man, I still didn't know what I want to do. Do you know what you want to be when you grow up yet? I should probably ask you that question.
No.
Where are you going to be at? When I interview you 10 years from now, where is Adam McChesney going to be?
It's a great question. I was actually talking about this on another podcast earlier today digital marketing, I don't ever see myself needing a reason to get out of it because I own companies I've literally built just from digital marketing. So I think our agency is always going to be there. My opportunities, though, and where I want to be involved with is more of that outsourced chief marketing officer, getting equity, consulting for equity within companies, and having the small piece of 10 to 15 pies, and having my zone of genius, as well as having a platform to speak on stages. And so that's one of my big things is what I want to continue to do, and I think I can have the most impact. My purpose in life is to impact as many people as I possibly can, whether directly in their business or within their personal lives as well. So that's why I put out as much content as I do. That's why I go as hard as I do, and I don't see that purpose ever changing. The deliverables of the day-to-day or the monthly projects, things like that might change over time, but that's what I'm committed to do.
So you said something about zone of genius. Did I hear that come out of your mouth?
Yes.
Tell me what that term refers to.
So just where I operate at my best in what I'm spending my time on. And so I can't remember what book I read where they talk about zone of genius, but it's basically where you are operating at your highest level and you are having the most enjoyment out of doing that. And so finding specifically what makes me tick most and being successful in that moment and having the most fun doing that. That's what I want to be doing.
Man, me and you're we must be like brothers from another mother. And then you talk about speaking on stages. How about this? So I just got back from IRE, which is the world's biggest international roofing show ever. If you're not in the roofing industry, it doesn't mean much to you. But I feel like 20,000 people converged on Dallas last week. I had the opportunity, and if you know my story, this should have never happened. I was invited by the Fortune 500 company, Beacon Roofing, to like do a presentation with them, speak on stage with the VP of marketing. So there's the VP of this Fortune 500 company, and then there's good old Benny Fisher, college dropout, freaking 2-time convicted felon, like all kinds of just weird crap that I have on my list of things. I don't really brag about all the bad stuff, right? But it's just crazy to me that like I ended up getting the same path like all my buddies that graduated college and went the corporate route took. Mm-hmm. Like I'm hanging out with these guys at the same level, you know what I mean? And it's just a different path, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think that it's I don't know. I'd like to argue that my path has a lot more upside. Eventually, you know, a lot of those buddies that I have in college that from back in the early days that all went to college, you know, they got great gigs and they got great stuff, but it's more like they're in that whole the whole day to day is the same, right? Like no matter what it is, it's like, and you can't create your own Disneyland, and we're guys like me and you're trying to create our own Disneyland.
Yes, every day.
So what do you think that you're gonna do with this whole like? So you got the personal brand, which I'm a big fan of, right? I'm a Gary Vee guy. I think Gary Vee is the one that set the bar for like personal brand and also being the CEO of companies. So I think guys like me and you are modeling that well. Speaking on stage is just another form of marketing for your own personal brand, right? Where do you think that you'll see yourself? Do you think you see yourself doing more of just keep marketing yourself? And then is that just to open up these other opportunities for these ownership equity deals, you know, down the road? Is that really just the play, kind of a cat and mouse game between that, right? Just more speaking on stages gives me more chances for more conversations.
That's exactly it. And right now, my personal brand is, fortunately and unfortunately, one of the biggest funnel drivers for our marketing company. So that was why we had to split off my personal brand from the company, and I also hired a sales girl that started almost a year ago. And so now people will reach out because they want us to do digital marketing in my DMs. I just turn it over and connect it with her, so that way I can get out of the picture and let her do what she does, and people are taken care of in a much quicker manner in the right way. And so it allows me to be the authority in the space that I've built, as well as continue to go do those things in that other direction, because people see that I'm traveling, they see that I'm doing all these different things, they understand that it would physically be impossible for me to build their website, for me to manage their account, for me to change something in their strategy. But I also do a good job in identifying how to tie my team into my content as well, making sure that people know the faces that are behind the scenes on everything, so that way when I am like, hey, go talk to Demi or go talk to Emily or one of your account managers, they've been following my content for a while and they already have been able to put a face to the name.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, so that happened to me about 3 years after I started my own business. The name of my company is the Big Fish Contracting Company. Obviously, I'm Benny Fisher, but like I got a lot of that. Like, I was the face of the roofing company, and like customers would DM me, and then even after I got out of sales, I would still feel bad.
Yeah,
I'd still try to help the customer, but then I was the worst.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about delivering concierge service, like Ben Fisher year 1 and year 2 is way different than Ben Fisher year 7 and 8, because Ben Fisher has 2 totally different roles now.
Yeah,
and that was a big shift. And I remember having my face like on a lot of the marketing materials. Like I would draw next to the cartoon fish, I'd have a cartoon face of me, just because I know people buy off people they have no like and trust, right? And it worked really well. Well, then I'm like, oh crap, like I have people like they'll always be calling me, and my team will never be able to flourish. Mm-hmm. So then I had to start peeling my face off at everything, which Catch-22 was good for me personally. It we didn't get as many leads maybe as quite, and we're like now growing into this more mature company, but took a lot of stress off me, and it empowered a lot of people, and it creates a lot more employment opportunities in different places on our leadership team for people to grow. So that's a good thing, I think.
I think the stress part is what I've noticed over the last really just 3 months. So I told myself in 2023, like, you're removing you've had Demi on board now for 6 months, but people a lot of times will be reaching out to me after we've already talked in the past or they're finally like, hey, Adam, I've been watching your content for 6 months now. I'm ready to sign up. And I would be like, oh, okay, this is an easy sale. Like, I'm just going to take it. And it ruins the whole process. It ruins everything that you've built. So far this year, like, there's been more fluidity, more process and system on the sales side. We've not closed as much that we did this time, or maybe even 6 months ago last year, because we basically had 2 people selling. But it is better, it's more calculated, and it's the right sales. But the stress is the biggest thing. I'm not sitting there, oh crap, did I send that proposal I told that guy? Did I send the follow-up email after the call? Did I submit their proposal? Like, all of that different stuff, it's now off of my hands, and that's the best thing ever.
Well, I mean, CEO role and salespeople role, I mean, they're different names and different titles for a reason. They have different responsibilities, right? Mm-hmm. And if your role as a CEO is primarily like promoting you, your brand, your personal brand, your company's brand, and like that's your new job now is like more like just drive both of those brands, it's different than having to remember to follow up with Mr. Jones. I mean, I think it's more so harder for us than it is harder for. We think our customers are going to miss out. They don't care.
They don't care.
I realized they actually like it better when they know that Ben's sending a guy or Adam's sending a guy or a girl to like help them, because they probably know that like it's actually going to get done at least. Mm-hmm. So like that's kind of cool. I do always hate, especially in the local market. I know you're locally based in St. Louis. I'm here in Pittsburgh. Our competitors have a leg up on us, when they're the ones still out there on the street, dealing with them. But, like, it's one of those things you just have to trust the process, right? And what do you say to that, like, to, like, the up-and-coming young Adam McChesney that's trying to make a name for himself in the digital marketing space in St. Louis? He's competing with you, you're competing with him. What do you say to that?
So, we compete with people all over, and even here locally in St. Louis, like, we'll lose out on business to the guy that's running the agency that's doing everything. He'll be cheaper, he'll be quicker to get a website finished, and he'll be the account manager through and through, and I was that guy 2 years ago. I can't compete with that anymore. I have too many things going on, I have too many other opportunities, and if I wanted to go be that guy, I wouldn't have built what I built. And also every time we cater to those clients where it's like, hey, if I could just get a little bit of ad time, I'll sign up. They end up being the worst clients. They end up being the biggest pains for my team. And they're also looking for a discount or a deal or something that just we don't need to offer at this point. One of my biggest, and I realized this right before I decided to quit drinking alcohol, one of the biggest reasons why we were so successful early on, which became a detriment last year, is I started thinking like a 7-figure agency owner. Within the digital marketing space, there's actually not a lot of people that truly do that, in the online space specifically. I started thinking about that when I started this business back in July 2020. So I was way ahead of the game. I was doing things that I shouldn't have, or most people, I guess, just aren't doing. But once we hit 7 figures about a year and a half ago, I kind of just had that 7-figure mindset. And it coasted me for another year, and I just kind of let everything go. I let myself go. Business was still fine because we had a team. Everything was good. But I was just coasting through life. And then I realized I need to start thinking like a multi-7-figure agency owner. And I need to have that next plateau, that next base camp, that next thing that we're going after, because I'm not the same guy that we started, but it helped me in the beginning, but now I got to reach that new level.
Well, yeah, and in your world too, it's even a little bit different than my world. Selling marketing services, that's month, they're paying every month, right? Where like, I'm transactional. If somebody buys a roof job off me, I'm probably not going to see them for a while. So I can definitely see where it gets a little bit more easy to get complacent. When those orders are coming through, the only time you get upset is when somebody either leaves you or you sell another big deal, right? And like, those are few and far between, and it doesn't hit that same dopamine, right? That young startup Adam needs to hit, right? To keep himself fired up. Tell me when I'm wrong, Adam.
You're right. That's 100% right.
So if we can get you on a couple more stages, get a couple more podcast guests, that keeps you firing on happy cylinders. It keeps your team happy that they get to manage their existing clients, right? They get a couple wins here and there with new business. I think that's good. So tell me when are you going to start having that 8-figure mindset for for these digital? I don't know when you guys figure digital marketing, is that just your service fee, or does that include the customer's ad spend too?
So for a lot of agencies, they're putting both in.
Oh yeah. Anything they can do to get like 9-figure agency, 10-figure this.
That's exactly right. So I did true 7 figures in our first 15 months. So that is 7 figures of just our fees. I don't want to be an 8-figure digital marketing agency. I have no interest in doing that. But it's about being multi-7 figures, which we'll do this year. And it's about being, I think the biggest I want to get it is about $5 million. So we'll do about 2.5 this year. So over the next 3 years to get to that $5 million mark is our goal. But again, it becomes at what point are we bringing on other opportunities that funnel through. So those equity deals, those other types of things. I'm thinking at that point, how do I be an 8-figure company worth earner? How do I bring in there versus just thinking about the agency and that pie and that revenue? Because again, it's that small thinking versus dreaming bigger and seeing what else is out there.
Yeah, because you can definitely have less clients. You can have at $5 million. You could just pick. You could be pickier, right? You just have the cool ones. You can only wait for Nike to come by and be like, hey man.
Yeah.
I want Adam to do all my digital marketing. So that's cool. That's cool. What do you do for fun, man, nowadays that you're this sophisticated business person, you got a good head on your shoulders, you quit drinking. What do you do for fun when you're not figuring out how to grow your business?
So I'm training to run right now. So I got a 10K coming up, going to do a half marathon this year as well. In addition to that, I love golfing, although I don't play as much as I would like to. I played a lot when I was in medical device sales, and now I don't.
Yeah, you'll never go. If you're a true entrepreneur, you won't have time for the golf course.
I haven't had it much, but and then also traveling. So I travel quite a bit. I try to travel as much as I possibly can, both work and. Have tied work stuff into also doing vacations. So I'm heading to Nicaragua next week, Costa Rica in a couple months, and excited about it. So I love doing that.
So that's cool. Is the Costa Rica, Nicaragua, is that just completely personal, or did you find a speaking engagement down there that you're able to go to and then turn it into a vacation?
Yeah. So I'm speaking in Costa Rica. Actually,
that's cool.
That we're turning into a vacation. So it's an all-inclusive resort, speaking at a marketing conference there. And then for Nicaragua, part of our team is down there. So we have an office down there, and then we're turning it into a vacation as well. So some of the top franchisees are going to a private island for a couple days next week.
That sounds like my type of life, buddy. If you know anybody else looking for any of those speakers in Costa Rica, just let me know.
Definitely will.
I definitely got to get out of the roofing industry and get shifted back more into where I feel more at home, and that's definitely in the marketing world. So
absolutely,
it's definitely coming that way. There's 5 questions that I ask every guest, kind of rapid fire. Imagine that you're by yourself and you have to go away to this island and you're going to be completely alone. What book are you going to take with you?
What book am I going to take with me? Man, that's a tough question. I think the book is going to be Winning by Tim Grover.
All right. And then what about you're allowed to build one restaurant on this island. It could be something like somebody that everybody would know, something only you might know. It could be a place in your backyard. It could be a place that you saw on vacation.
So there's a local restaurant here called Bartolino's. It's an Italian spot. Love Italian food.
Bartolino's, St. Louis. Gonna have to check that out. And then you are, let's see a book. What movie are you gonna take with you?
Movie. That will be Moneyball.
Ooh, I like that one. Yeah, that's good. Why do you like Moneyball so much?
I love sports, and I love the business side of sports, and obviously now being an entrepreneur and just kind of watching the movie. I watch that movie probably once or twice a year and just see it from different angles every time.
Yep. No, we talk about Moneyball a lot in our company. We're trying to figure out how to always optimize all the different departments, and it's all about more base hits and walks.
Fascinating.
Less about the home run. All right, you're allowed to take one trip. You can go anywhere in the world that you want to go to for a week. Where are you going to go?
Bora Bora.
Bora Bora. Have you ever been there?
Haven't. It's on the bucket list.
Maybe we can get a speaking engagement there. See, maybe if they're asking for another guy, too, we could be like, be like a 2-for-1 special or something like that. Bora Bora, that sounds like a good spot. And then the last question, you could spend 24 hours with somebody on Earth. It could be somebody famous. It could be a celebrity. It could be somebody that only you know. Who would you want to spend 24 hours with and pick their brain?
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Wow, how about that? I feel like that could be possible. What would you talk to him about?
Just his mindset and how he viewed winning. I think is just fascinating. So I'm a big Tim Grover fan. Love reading his books and obviously listening to him on podcasts. But man, the way that Michael Jordan went about winning and his relentlessness and just everything that went into it is just fascinating to me.
Well, and you're young too, so that's the thing. I grew up with Michael Jordan, so I started watching sports when Michael Jordan was peaking.
I didn't even realize you got a.
Oh yeah, I got a Jordan painting there. Check this out. I got that thing, the oversized rookie card signed by Jordan.
Oh wow!
I got a Jordan out in my living room. I have a slam dunk thing signed by him. I got a jersey in my office signed. I'm a Jordan. Check out these. I got these big fish, black and yellow, Air Force Ones. Oh yeah, there you go. Don't get me started on Michael Jordan. So for you though, being younger, and did you grow up in St. Louis? Have you been in St. Louis your whole life?
Yes.
Is there a basketball town out there?
No. Chicago's the closest.
Yes, yeah. So why Michael? Why not Kobe? Why not LeBron? Tell me, because you're more of a Kobe. Kobe Bryant or LeBron would be your generation.
I think it's more so just understanding true mindset behind it. Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm with you. I think that you have the right pick. I just trying to understand. It's very rare that these you young guys appreciate Michael the way I appreciate Michael.
And I think that's what it is too, because I never truly saw it or understood it in the moment. Never there, right? So it's what would that be to go back and because I still remember watching him even when he was doing his whatever with the Wizards.
Yeah, the Wizards. Yeah, sure. That doesn't count.
I remember hearing about okay, you should have seen him So I think for me it's what didn't I see and what didn't I understand? That fascinates me.
Did you watch the documentary?
I did
on Netflix, The Last Dance.
Yep, love that one.
That was that was awesome. That's why I have video guys following me around everywhere now, because I'm thinking 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just make documentary. Now we can have self-published documentary. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love the book Relentless too. I haven't read Winning. It's definitely on my list, but yeah, Relentless is one of my favorite books where they talk about closers, coolers, and cleaners.
Yeah.
Right? Coolers, closers, cleaners, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Good deal, man. Is there? Where's the best place for people to get a hold of you at?
Yeah, so you can go to AdamMcChesney.com, and then on Instagram, it's Adam L. McChesney.
There we go. Here's a fun fact for you. When I got my fake ID, I had to come up with a name, and my last name was Chesney. So it wasn't Mick Chesney, which sounds like it would even be a cooler name for a fake ID now. My first name, it was Chip Chesney. I think I just ripped it off from Kenny Chesney, and I forget how that all came up, but that's just a funny, fascinating thing. I remember my mom found that fake ID, and then she hid it from me, and then she gave it back to me in my 21st birthday. She put it in a card. And I was like, you had it the whole time? I thought I lost it. She must have found it in the laundry or something. It's just
amazing.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you being on the show today. It's been fun getting to know you. Hopefully I can hang out with you in your world rather than you have to come into my world. I'd much rather go into that marketing world more than the roofing world. So let me know if there's any opportunities along the horizon, and hopefully we run into each other in person soon. All right?
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.